Hello, my name is Toshi Shimada. I'm a music director with the Orchestra of Southern Finger Lakes. We have an exciting concert coming up on March 15th, 3 p.m. at the Clemens Center in Elmira. You see the background here, and it's a beautiful hall. We are quite excited to feature two living composers. That's very important. The living part is very important because we tend to perform all the dead composers' pieces. The benefit of that is that we have today two wonderful composers here on this interview. Let me just introduce. Uh, we have a Wang Jie, who is residing in New York right now, but writing in many wonderful symphonic music and chamber music, and also she's a pianist also. And we have a Robert Dusek, Bob Dusek, who resides in Corning area, New York, so kind of local. And he's also a pianist as well. Welcome.
Thank you. Pleasure to be here.
Yes, it is.
So would you tell us about your movement, the second movement from the Symphony Number Three?
Well, yes, uh, it was originally conceived of as just an overture or just a something that would be fast and loud and fun. But as I got into it, I realized there's a whole lot more music there than I originally, thought. I tend to like to write kind of organically, and sometimes certain themes and certain ideas suggest other themes, other ideas, and the piece kind of grows by itself. And when I got the piece semi-finished, I realized it really needed some other works to complement it. And so thus the piece just continued to grow. I think the author J.R.R. Tolkien said it best when he said the work grew in the telling.
Mhm.
Uh, and so what started as an innocent little overture ended up being a four movement symphony, and I'm really excited about it. I'm excited to
Great.
hear
Yeah.
this movement.
Yeah. It's going to be a world premiere for us, that piece. Yeah. Gee, I will ask you that we are excited to perform your the winter that united us. Uh, the title, of course, I would assume that music does unite all of us, but beyond that, I think it's deeper meaning to it. I feel. And can you tell us about your work?
So, The Winter That United Us was originally commissioned by the League of American
Mhm.
Orchestras and co-commissioned by the Buffalo Philharmonic Orchestra. Joanne Falletta
Yeah.
led the world premiere performance. So Joanne and I, we talked about the inspiration and what might be a good uh, concert opener
Mhm.
for the Buffalo community right in the thick of the pandemic. So this was
Mm,
going to be my one of my pandemic pieces.
I see.
And so, but the way Joanne was just such a anchoring personality, I guess.
Mm,
So it makes it very easy for me to hear her. And what I heard from the community was that everybody just really needs a different message than the reality of the pandemic itself. So then my mind, I'm a pretty rebellious personality, I guess. So I was like, well, what can we learn from this collective experience? And I would like to think, and this is a lot of projecting on my part, and the Buffalo community struck me as a community that's very united. Everybody comes out on Friday, Saturday to hear the symphony. They love their symphony. So it already had that united feeling. So that part does not it's easy, but it's the key word here is winter, and the winter, what I refer to is the suffering, the collective suffering that is also the reality at the time.
Yeah,
And
we're really suffering with this weather too.
it's the same here. It's so
Yeah.
cold. But the what I hope that the piece could accomplish, especially as a concert opener, um, was to uplift and to highlight
Mm,
some of the resilience that
mm,
comes with our human spirit in our human condition. And I want to do my part to highlight that, to bring it forth. And so we can rise from the ashes together, united from the ashes, from the
mm,
winter of the pandemic, and perhaps learn something about each other and
mm.
connect in this experience of togetherness. So uh, it's a lot of
Yeah,
work,
that's what
but that was the beginning of it.
I've been studying your work, of course, and it's very dramatic, and then a lot of activities going on. But
Mm.
the place that I'm looking for is that when near the end, when suddenly tempo slows down and the sky opens up and the sunshine comes in, that kind of
Wow.
feeling that I have that portion. And then of course you ended very exciting, and Bob's piece also. Both of you, the piece ends with a big gusto. When you're really conceiving the composition, a piece, do you think of the formal structure first, or structure comes later? Bob?
Uh, Very rarely do I think of the formal structure. I normally start with just a motif, maybe a rhythmic idea, something very small and see what it might grow into. But it's fairly early on within the compositional process that I decide what type of structure will hold the music the best. I mean, whether it's something very traditional, like a sonata allegro form or something, or whether it needs to be something much more open-ended, organic. Uh, so no, I don't start with the structure. I start with a much smaller idea, and but I put the structure on fairly soon.
Hmm. Jay?
Mm. Um, so I suffer from this I don't even know what to call it. Pieces come to me in the big picture first.
Hmm.
So it's
Hmm.
like
Hmm.
it comes to me already complete. So my problem is that I almost need a magnifying glass to
Uh-huh. Mhm.
really zoom in to hear what exactly has been that this has been handed to me,
Mhm.
to
Mhm.
put it simply. Um, so for me, that was already predetermined. So I find myself often in a position of not knowing whether I have adequately notated and delivered this vision
Mhm.
that was handed to me. Um, and so and I often feel like I've not lived up to it because exactly what you're uh, pointing out, Toshi, is that structure, form, these are these are so difficult for, at least for me in my experience, so difficult to know when is the right moment for what.
Mhm.
Because I am mortal.
Mhm.
I'm the mortal composer who's
Mhm.
struggling
We are
struggling
mortal.
to answer to the muses who are perfect. They're
Right.
perfect. I'm not. I'm just glad I could put down three measures after a very long day of teaching or something. And I'm like, these three measures literally last for about a second and a half
Yeah.
in the
Yeah. Well,
symphony.
Yeah,
Where
Bob has
does
gone.
it go? I don't know. I can't even begin to think sometimes. And the process often is really, for me at least, is 95% of struggling to really discover what the form is, um, and what goes and what doesn't go. Um, so
Yeah. And
Well, I
Bob,
find
you had
that
a comment?
I just find that fascinating because the muse, tends to give you the big picture, and for me, the muse gives me just this tiny little slice of an idea, and and it's just like an opposite way of working,
So
and
let me
that's
tell you
fascinating.
from the person who's performing that, the person who have to understand the piece, any piece, that for me to study something, it's for me, it's best just to dissect the piece
Mhm.
into the format and which fits into, it doesn't have to be sonata form or anything like that, but some kind of form for me to
mm,
really learn. Like Wang Jie's piece, I dissected to 9 sections, you know, 9 different sections, and then how it connects, and that's how I memorize a piece in a way. That's how I do it. And Bob also, I dissect your piece and put it together at the end. That's how I understand. That's why I asked that question. So when you're composing, do you always think about who's performing?
unfortunately,
Mm,
I do.
Mm,
I have a like a, a visual thinking process.
mm,
So I can only think in motion pictures.
mm,
I was born this way. I read very slowly, but when I process um sim symbols, like I'm very, very fast, which is why the pictures I see are moving, they're in
mm.
motion. So when I wrote this, I had like a bunch of cameras around, and I was literally watching the Buffalo Philharmonic Orchestra.
Ah, okay.
Um,
Uh-huh.
so or and Joanne and the way that she conducts. There's
Yeah.
a
Mm-hmm.
there's there's something she does really, really well, really naturally, that just it's very present for me. For solo works, I almost always check in with the musician.
Mm-hmm.
So, because I am an instrumentalist myself, so I think some of these virtuosity, for the showmanship, the virtuosity writing, I think it's a double-edged sword because, if I write something that is virtuosic and takes a lot of time to learn, I myself have functioned at the other end of it, the opposite end of it. I'm handed a piece of music that takes me a long time to learn. And am I likely to do it again? Well, that's a big question, right? So when I write a piece that I knew that the Buffalo Philharmonic can play,
Mm-hmm.
uh, I actually try. I know that I need to try to write music that is is I guess welcoming for all the other levels of musicians and ensembles and orchestras. And for this is my own limitation, I guess, is that the way I conceive these ideas is so just happened that I need to write the way it is now
Mm-hmm.
for this piece.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think I was intentionally making it virtuosic. um it just kind of turned out this way. I hope that makes sense. Also I also write pieces that are friendly for amateur musicians,
Mm-hmm.
but that's a very different kind of composing.
Mm-hmm.
And for this piece, it so just happened that what I wanted to express, what I needed to deliver from the vision, required this kind of writing, this kind of playing. Um, I guess, yeah, that's all I have to say about it.
Yeah, okay.
I wish there was a more a more, I guess, different transcription of the piece that could be a little more friendly to other orchestras. But I thought, um, why not? Why not
Yeah, well,
find out what other orchestras can do with it?
I think
And
we could
hopefully,
do it. Yeah, and
but
just
hopefully, if my music can be strong as music, then even if, let's say, the performance isn't perfect,
mm,
hopefully the music
mm,
message still comes through. And so that's my hope at every performance of my music.
Mm.
I mean, because I've also worked with community orchestras and
Mm.
school
I see.
orchestra, youth orchestras. So I'm always really impressed how even student musicians in college orchestras,
Yeah.
how much I'm curious about it myself. How much of the music is still there, even if the students are struggling to perform it.
That curiosity, that's very well appreciated. I wonder how you feel about the orchestra performance. But okay, Bob, same question.
Yeah, I really don't know if I write to, specific players
Yeah.
or to specific orchestras or anything like that. Uh, I do write often, and maybe it's unfortunate, but with specific limitations in mind. Uh, and what I guess I mean by that is I like to think of like what does the clarinet like to do?
Hmm.
And what does it not like to do? It certainly doesn't like to trill, across its bridge there, or I mean across the break. And so I take into account a lot of things that I want the instrumentalists or the vocalist or whoever is performing my piece to have fun or to say, yes, this really fits on my instrument.
Mm.
So I think that's really where I sit. Uh, I likewise agree that if a piece is a little bit more difficult, but there's a lot of music there, I mean, oh, that just means it's a good piece and it's worth, if it's not perfect, it's still going to speak to people.
I think audience would love to hear about your background, individual backgrounds.
Mm.
Wang Jie, start, please. You're born in Shanghai.
Yes, I was born in Shanghai, in a very musical family, so it wasn't a choice. To enter music as a profession. I have been a professional musician since I was 4 years old.
Mm.
My father was the music director of Art Institute at the time. So I had access to the best music education available in China at the time. So I was very privileged. And Also, I was told that I was very talented. I still don't know what that means, but
Come on.
that's what I was told. So I also had, I guess, the work ethic to back it up. But it was also not by choice because I loved my dad and I loved how how music made him who he was and he was like my idol, and so I would do anything to gain his approval as a young musician. And then fast forward, so a scholarship from Manhattan School of Music enabled me to start my studies here in New York. So I moved here 26 years ago
Mm.
as just as a hopeful hopeful composer, I guess. Um, and fast forward a little more. So I've been in New York majority of my life, I would say. Um, and My father, my late father, taught me a lot, whether he was aware of it or not. And I think my artistic direction is an immediate result of his downfall as a music director of
Mm.
large
Interesting.
art institute.
Hmm.
Um, so I am hypersensitive, I guess. Um, Maybe this makes me very different from what I look like,
Mm.
but I'm hypersensitive to propaganda in music.
Hmm.
I'm
Hmm.
hypersensitive to the boundary between music as art and music as propaganda. So I have devoted my entire career to stand by what I believe to be music as art, because that's actually what my father taught me, although he was obligated to produce a lot of music of propaganda, and
Mm, yeah,
he
I see.
intentionally kept me away from it.
Hmm. Hmm.
So I guess in this way, my experience in China, um, it brought me a new a necessary self critique. I always are thinking about my work, where does it stand
Mm.
between propaganda and music as art? And I guess it's a lifelong it's a lifelong journey.
Yeah.
I think nowadays words are really important, and I also think words are really important for audiences to listen to brand new world premieres and
Mhm.
music from living composers. And I think it's invitation for composers to be even more rigorous about what the words are saying about our music.
Mhm.
Music, the kind of music, the best of our art form, I think, are works that words cannot touch.
Mhm.
Um, because it's pure feelings and it's so precious, right? It really informs us of something even pre-verbal. Um, I'm a big believer in that.
Mhm.
I believe music um, is that bonding, invisible bonding force
Mhm.
for us mammals,
Yeah.
social mammals. um, so yeah, that's a big part of it.
Well, thank you. Let's go to Bob. Start with where you originated.
Well, actually, I grew up in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and it really was interesting growing up. I took piano lessons at a young age, and I started, writing little pieces because I figured as soon as I saw this thing called a Bach invention, I thought, well, I can write something like that as well. Of course, I thought mine was much better than this old guy named Bach. So my piano teacher did not believe that to be the case. Uh, but anyways, I plodded along, and my dad, who was not musical at the time, I guess, at all. I say at the time because he grew up and when he was a young kid, he played the saxophone, but he became the quintessential electrical engineer. And he was very, very concerned that I actually make a living, and I could not actually guarantee that if I was going to go into music.
Hmm.
And so he had me auditioning at the University of Wisconsin, Milwaukee, and like DePaul University, and all these places around here. And well, I wanted to audition at Eastman. And when the numbers came in, I was blessed because Eastman gave me a big enough scholarship that it was much less expensive to go there than it was to go to any of the local schools.
Mhm.
So, and that's really, I think, where my musical career started. Um, I just had so much exposure to such great music, great musicians, great professors, and just an awful lot of encouragement. And I've taken a bunch of detours along the way. For quite a while back in Colorado, I was doing a lot of church music, and I have I guess you say a positive and a negative aspect to that. It's such a rewarding experience, and yet you're sometimes working with some of the, amateurs that you just seem to not be able to communicate, you know, communicate what it is that you're expecting of them. And but it was a great time, and eventually we moved over to the Corning area, and I've done a few recordings and a few things here and there, but I don't. I really, really, I feel like I'm stumbling over my words right now because my career has always gone kind of all over the place, all over the map. Um, but I've just been, I would say, just blessed by being uh, involved with so many really top-notch musicians and teachers that have influenced me throughout my years.